All right, welcome back to another insider interview. We have a repeat guest, a friend of the show, and certainly an amazing investor in the industry, Tal Elyashiv. Tal, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me, Kyle.
So, Tal, we're here today to talk about a pretty exciting occasion from one author to another. You actually have an amazing book coming out talking about your blockchain prophecies. And I just wanted to dive into it a little bit. But first, could you give us some background on the journey and what inspired you to start writing and what that process has looked like?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you know, over the last 3 years, I've published over 100 articles in different publications, from The Streets to Newsweek, and a bunch of other publications like CNN and so on. And all of them were revolving around blockchain and different topics related to blockchain. Mostly economics, investable universe, geopolitical connections, and industry impact, and so on. And kind of looking back over those 3 years and what was published, I realized it was a very significant period in the growth of blockchain and its adoption in industry and move towards mainstream and so on. And I realized nobody took a comprehensive view at that, not from a technical standpoint, but really from a society impact, from an economic investment perspective, and so on, and looked at that progress. And what I realized is that there's a lot of material that was written kind of in real time at the time, reporting about what is happening, and thought that it would be interesting to put it into a book describing this period from those materials. And that's what I did. And I think it's a very exciting book. Hopefully it is. So
that's awesome. I think that you have been such an effective thought leader. So did that make the process of writing the book easier that you had all of this source material to base it off of? Or did you kind of have to relook at the writing process in detailing a much longer product?
So yes, it wasn't that easy because a lot of those articles were written at the time, and they were very relevant at the time. But to put it together into a bigger piece and make it relevant in the long run, it took a lot of processing and sifting through and seeing what is relevant and what is not. And the whole point of the book is it's not a history book, right? It's a book that helps people understand the evolution of this amazing set of concepts and technology and how it impacts our society, because it impacts, and it will be impacting over the next 10, 15 years, everybody's life. And so understanding the progression is interesting only if it gives you better insight into what's coming. And so it was very important to digest it through this and to adapt it according to this. And also do it in a way that helps people think about the future, project the future if you need this in order to help you figure out investing options or thinking about other ventures that may be related and so on. I'd like to think that the way it was processed and the way it's put in the book and arranged in the book is helpful for people in putting these thoughts forward.
I love it. I think that we took a similar approach with the book we wrote in trying not to just rehash some of the same kinds of concepts in terms of, as you mentioned, it's not a history book, right? A lot of people may know that, or there may be a lot of content online detailing, the 2008 white paper, right? And our journey from there until where we reach today. So taking that unique spin, I think, is really important. So we do have a couple of prophecies that I do want to dive into. Before we do that, when does the book launch and what's that process look like? Where can people purchase? Can you just talk about what the rollout's going to look like?
Right. So officially, the book launches next Tuesday on the 14th, November 14th. It will be available both in digital format, in Kindle format, and in hard copy format on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And all people need to do is go and get it.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. So Tuesday it comes out. That's exciting. Let's talk about a couple of your predictions or prophecies as you've noted it. The first one is about SEC regulation, specifically around DeFi and stablecoins. Can you talk about where your perspective is on that right now?
Yes, but let's put the context. I'm talking about in those prophecies, we're not talking very long term. We're really talking about the next year or so.
Right.
Next year. So, one prediction looks at regulators in the U.S., but not only in the U.S., and their relationship with DeFi and stablecoins. So, totally different things, but I think similar in terms of when you look at the crosshairs of the SEC and some of the other regulators, it makes sense that both DeFi and stablecoins are next for different reasons. Stablecoins, because they are a very weird animal, if you want to look at it this way. They're not outright a security, but they feel like a security because there's a promise of value. If a stablecoin is pegged to a currency, to the dollar, for example, or to the price of gold, then there's a promise that I can keep that value attached to that coin, and that promise has to be backed somehow. So if you look at traditional securities, there are mechanisms that define what can you claim about promise of value for a certain security and what needs to be there in order to ensure that, to some degree at least, that promise can be met, right? And in the case of securities, it's the SEC that will oversee this and so on. If you want to say that it's not a security because it's not bearing interest, so it's not like a bond, maybe so. But then it's very similar to deposits, right? And if you look at traditional deposits, there are regulatory bodies that define different rules around bank deposits and what reserves need to be there to be able to back those deposits and the promise that comes with it. Again, who's the regulator that oversees stablecoins? Nobody right now. So nobody's overseeing and enforcing anything related to stablecoins, and it's an issue. It's an issue because stablecoins have become a very important instrument, not just in the traditional crypto world, but it's also very useful for traditional payments. Because it's faster, because it's easier to...
Some may call it actually the killer app of the blockchain crypto industry is stablecoins.
That's right. And for that reason, the fact that there is no oversight behind the promise of the pegging is something that is worrisome for regulators in terms of protecting investors. Sure. We've had reasons for regulators to be concerned, like with the Terra Luna fiasco and so on and so forth.
Yeah, or basis even before that, before that even didn't get to the same size. But we certainly have seen a lot of those programmatic stablecoins struggle to actually defend that peg.
Exactly. And even if you're looking not at programmatic stablecoins, but really backed stablecoins, there are major questions about how backed really are they, and if they're pegged to the dollar, are they really backed by US dollar or other things, and so on and so forth. Right. Makes sense. It's a concern, and we've seen both the SEC talk about it, and we also have seen the FCA in the UK, for example, talk about stablecoins and producing a framework for stablecoin adequacy and so on and so forth. So I think this is going to be next in focus, and it's actually very important both for crypto and for DeFi in general that stablecoin gets some oversight. So there's more stability around stablecoin and its use. And in terms of DeFi, one of the issues around DeFi is that the way DeFi protocols, many of them, are implemented today, there's no identity related to the transactions. And that, if you think about the financial world, that's a no-no, right? In the financial world, there's no such thing as transactions that are not related to specific entities and so on, and can't be traced that way. And the use of mixers and so on in the DeFi world makes it even worse from that perspective. So again, I think in terms of fraud issues, in terms of different regulations related to Terror Act and so on, I expect DeFi to be next. And I actually think that it's going to be a painful process, because DeFi protocols will have to either, in my mind, adapt and figure out how to bring identity in, or they will not survive in the long run.
Fascinating stuff. And there is this interesting underpinning, I think, storyline of, the SEC struggling with their enforcement of the Ripple case, and seeing, does that cause them to double down and be even more aggressive on perpetrators? Does that cause them to be slightly more hesitant and picking and choosing in who they enforce? Certainly, they haven't lost yet, so they have many weapons in their arsenal to try to go after a lot of these different firms. But it certainly doesn't seem like they have quite. I certainly don't think that starting that lawsuit they expected it to be where it is today. Not that they've or have any issues, but I think it's been a little more complex than they thought on that case. It'll be interesting to see how it goes with other potential enforcement attempts. But into your second prediction here, it's talking about market cycles. And so when you've been in the industry as long as you have, or as I have, we've seen many cycles in crypto. In fact, I think it's one of the benefits of the industry is that you have your highs, but you also have your lows to clear out a lot of the bad actors, versus when you look at the traditional economy, the fact that we've never let the economy cool off and kind of have some of the shedding of dead weight, I actually think it's been to the detriment of where we're at today, because we've never been able to let that happen. So, I think one of your prophecies is talking about market climate and where we may be heading into 2024. Do you want to add a little more detail there?
Sure. I'll say it very simply. I think that crypto winter is over, at least for now. I think we'll see an interesting 2024 in terms of crypto. Definitely when we talk about the key cryptocurrencies, I think that both for Bitcoin and for Ethereum, we're going to see some interesting movements in 2024. I think there are different reasons for that. Some related to there is a lot of push behind ETFs that are spot based, right? And mostly starting with Bitcoin. Will any be approved in 2024 or not? I don't know, right? But the story is very different the way it's told today than it was a year ago in terms of the SEC's potential to maybe approve one of these. But there's definitely a massive move into this, and there is definitely massive interest and participation from almost all the mega fund managers in the US around that. So I think that brings a lot of interest and mainstream into Bitcoin, that's that. And I think that the Ripple case, again, it's not clear how it will end, but the way it's progressing took some steam from the SEC's actions before, and I think that also helped thaw a little bit of the crypto winter. I also will say that with that, we'll probably see some disappearance of a bunch of shitcoins over the next few years, and more concentration on key cryptocurrencies, the bigger ones.
Right. I think that when you look at charts on a lot of the altcoins, it does seem like they follow a pretty similar chart where they have that initial pump, they then dump and decline, and you very rarely see them come back to create any level of value, perhaps because of the fact that they don't have any underlying assets that are backing them. So that's interesting. Do you think that rise in crypto, let's say that we enter into at least a lukewarm market, and the prices start to come back for Bitcoin and Ethereum and maybe some of the other products, will that likely, in your opinion, drive additional venture capital interest, or are they kind of separate industries right now? Because at least certainly in the US, it seems like the venture industry has fully gone into winter, and there's very few funds that are deploying. There's very few LPs that are committing into funds. Do you see the crypto winter or crypto potentially spring or summer driving some life back into that market, the same way that maybe some of the things you've described have driven life into the crypto markets? Or do you see that kind of still diverging for a while?
So I think they're a little bit unrelated, but they're a little bit unrelated for different reasons. I think the situation in the venture capital market is derived from international uncertainty around financial markets and around geopolitical tension, right? Let's remember what brought us into this. What brought us into this is very high interest rates, right, which are not subsiding for now. Maybe they will, but right now they're not. Mm-hmm. The tensions in Europe, the war, the Russia-Ukraine war, and its impact on other players, on economy in Europe. And at the same time, the rising tensions between the US and China, initially around Taiwan and then in general, and on and on and on. And I think all these uncertainties creates a very uncomfortable situation globally from a financial standpoint. And with very high interest rates and very high geopolitical international risk, investors are very leery about putting money in the long term into investments. They're wrong, by the way, because these are the best times to invest. But psychologically, this is exactly what's happening. Right. Big investors sitting on their hands and not putting money until they want to see some risks clear out before they do that. And I think that created the kind of the winter in LPs investing into VC. But at the same time, institutional investors are sitting on a lot of money. Eventually, they will have to invest. And alternative investments and venture capital are kind of the highest return investments. So in the long run, they will have no choice but to go back into the market. So I think the cycle will go back in terms of VC money and LPs investing into funds. And it will come unrelated to what's happening with crypto. It may coincide, though, because I think sometime in 2024, we will see money flowing back into the VC market. We've already seen some of that happen.
Right.
So
cool. And our final prophecy before we wrap this up today, you're also going to be joining us live on the Security Token Show tomorrow morning. So we'll dive into more there. But the final prophecy we have here, obviously don't want to spoil the whole book. This is only a part of all of the sauce that you spill in your entire Blockchain Prophecies book, is talking about real world assets. This is an industry that I've spent so much of my time working in. So you're not going to get a lot of pushback from me here on this being a really exciting opportunity for the next upcoming year. Could you talk about where you see that coming from and your projections on institutions participating in the blockchain markets?
So, obviously you and I met more than 5 years ago, exactly around the same topic.
Yeah.
All this beginning to swell. I think that if you look at real world assets and the vision we had 6-7 years ago, realizing this is way bigger than crypto, about 1,000 times bigger than crypto's potential, is coming to fruition. We've seen over the last 3 years, major institutions, most of the banks, most of the players in the securities market are already in the market utilizing blockchain technology. It started with them using blockchain technology for back-end processes, for simplifying settlement processes, and so on and so forth, and moved into a realization that it can really simplify and create better access and better control over the market for securities on the front end. And we've seen major funds, for example, tokenizing traditional private equity funds to create better access to investors and simplify the process towards investors. Very traditional players like Hamilton Lane, for example. And over the next year, we'll see some of the other major players as well. We've seen this in the UK with Aberdeen as well. So there's a bunch of mega players that are moving this way. We've seen this beginning with real estate. We've seen this with a bunch of other financial assets. We've seen this with bonds in Japan. We've seen it in Germany with bonds and so on. So it's really, really happening with major players like Nomura, like JP Morgan, like BlackRock. I mean, they're all in that game. And this is the time when you look at this and you say, it's a reality. It's not a prophecy about 10 years from now. It's really happening now, right? And if you don't see it now, then you better look better because it's there, right? And it's already at the beginning. And if you want to benefit from this growth, now is the time, right? If you're thinking about it. But I'm not alone in this. If you look at some of the industry predictions, we're looking at a CAGR growth rate of 60 to 90% a year until 2030. This is, unheard of. So I think that real world assets tokenization is going to be one of the mega stories over the next 5 to 10 years, and where a lot of the growth is going to happen. It's an addressable market that is huge. It's in the hundreds of trillions. And so if you look at the overall accessible assets across global markets, so there's a tremendous room for growth there, and tremendous room for players to grow within this universe, and for investors to make a lot of money by making good choices. So it's a very, very exciting domain.
Well, we both have put our money where our mouth is, as we've both done tokenized securities issuances before. It's easier said than done, certainly from my experience. But those early adopters are really the keys to proving these opportunities. We had an amazing interview, I guess it was maybe 9 months ago now, something like that, talking about all the success that SPiCE VC has seen through your fund, and you're in the process of launching a fund 2 as well, and you've leveraged a lot of success through this industry. So Tal, thank you so much for sitting down and joining me. I'm so excited to read the physical copy of your book. I already have started reading the Kindle version, but for me, the physical version just hits so much harder. So looking forward to getting my copy on Tuesday. And so for everybody else, where can they, what are your calls to action? Where can they do you want them to go to the website? Is it finding the copy on Amazon? How do they get access to the book and stay in touch with you?
So first, they can go on the website. It's blockchainprophecies.com, and they can get it there. They can also get a description of the book there and summary and so on. They can go straight to Amazon and look for Blockchain Prophecies, or just look for my name, and find the book. I am on the SPiCE website, spicevc.com. Anybody can write me and chat.
You definitely can chat with him if you leave a 5-star review on Amazon. Then he'll make himself available to you.
Great.
All right, Tal. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.